This video is brought to you by Raycon. A review copy of this game was provided by Nintendo. No, that's who, what is up, my Mario and or tennis loving friends? Arlo here, and today I am reviewing Mario Tennis Fever. I wanted to get a racket for this video as a prop, and I did not. I put it off, and now it is too late. I'm already recording. So I dug through the closet, and I found this. I don't know what it's called, but you get like the ball and you kind of huck it. Does that work? Is that a reasonable substitute? I don't know. But the real ow, my chin. Ouch. The real question is, these are dangerous. I should put a warning label on this. Guard your chin. Get a chin guard for this sport. What was I gonna say? Is this game? Shoot. I had a thing. There's like a tennis terminology. Is Mario Tennis Fever? Nope, lost it. Sorry, didn't write it down. And now I lost it. Review! Woo! Okay, we're just gonna get this out of the way first. I gotta say, you probably just shouldn't take this review that seriously. As always, I'm not a really big Mario sports guy. I'm not a really big Mario tennis guy. I'm not even a really big multiplayer guy. There's a million other reviews out there from people who are like real fans of this series and are gonna be able to give you a lot more valuable information and opinions than I can. This is a very, very, very casual perspective. And if anything, it's just kind of like halfway, just an excuse for me to talk about the nature of the game, the very concept of its existence and everything. I don't have like a ton of experience with the Mario Tennis series. I've really only really sat down and played two of the games. The first was the original Mario Tennis on the Virtual Boy, which I did play a pretty good amount, but that game was rather limited in scope, mechanically, strategically, not a whole lot going on. I did enjoy it. And then the other one was the last one, Aces, on the Switch. And it's frustrating because I really did get more into Aces than I expected to. The gameplay was very good. I really did enjoy it. But Nintendo had they had advertised the game as featuring the return of the adventure mode. Because that's the thing, is I hadn't played any Mario sports games for so many years, so many generations, and yet I looked at some of those classic ones, like the Game Boy ones, and just they had these really big RPG adventure modes. And, because I'm not super into sports gameplay, competitive multiplayer gameplay, I was like, there you go. I think the gameplay itself is fun. I just don't want to only play against other people or CPUs. I want some sort of progression system, a story, something to, for a single player to really sink their teeth into. And I felt like Aces was kind of a bait and switch. They showed us this big CG cinematic trailer and it made it look like it was gonna have this cool story, and then it ended up being really, really short, really disappointing. And then the rest of the game had almost nothing for a single player to do, whatsoever. Just some basic tournament stuff, and that was it. And yeah, I could play online, but the thing is, one, am never going to be good enough to be competitive online. I couldn't really wrap my head around the meta or whatever. And then two, online just stunk. This was the early days of the Switch generation. The online performance was just terrible. It was basically unplayable. So my hands were tied. I thought it was a cool game. I enjoyed playing it, but I had nothing to do. So I was really interested to see if Mario Tennis Fever could kind of right that wrong, give me a lot more stuff to do as a single player. And of course, you want it to appease all of the multiplayer, general tennis loving people as well. And I think the end result is, it's definitely mixed to negative for me, but I can also see a lot of the ways that it has improved. And I don't know. Let's just go over it all. Let's start with just the basic gameplay, and just one of many reasons why this review is not going to be super duper helpful is that I'm not really clicking with the gameplay, and I don't exactly know if it's because of the changes to the gameplay or if it's just kind of where I am in my life. Because like I said, in Aces, I really did like the gameplay. I got kind of okay with it. I understood the mechanics and everything, and it seemed like that game gave the player a lot more agency, like figuring out when to like use your gauge, and it had this like, the mechanic where you're like diving for the ball. There was a lot more that like you had to do and you had to be aware of. And I don't know if that's why I liked that more, because I'm not good at the game, I would think that I would like this a lot better. This time around, it's a lot more automated. The dives kind of happen automatically, and instead of having this gauge over here, now you got the fever gauge, which so really you're just kind of playing tennis, and then the only decision you have to make is like when to hit that button to use your fever ability. And yeah, the whole fever thing, it's kind of a mixed bag. I think I can see the value in it, and I can see that it's a really, really great idea, because now instead of having it all down to like the individual characters and their own individual specials, now every character has its own stats, its own style, but then you can choose whatever racket you want to bring into the match, and that is going to change what kind of specials you can do. And I think that's really clever, because that offers a lot of customization. You can really fine-tune your strategy. You can really come up with a combo that works for you. For me, it's like, it is kind of fun. It's nice going through the different rackets and picking one that has an ability that I think is really good. And of course, with a Mario sports game, you want it to be not really like a regular sports game. At least for me, I want it to be silly. I want it to be arcadey. It's got to be Mario sports, because I'm not even a really big sports guy like it all. So part of me thinks this is really fun, but then there are also a lot of times when I feel like it just gets annoying. It just puts a lot of stuff on the court, and now everybody is just kind of like tripping over all of these hazards. And maybe it's just me being an old man, but even just like visually, when it's like doubles and like everybody's got their own fever rackets, and just like I can barely even tell what's going on sometimes. There's just stuff flying all over the place, and I'm already like, I don't know all the different shot types, man. Like I pretty much just spam drop shots. That's the best thing I can think to do. I could do lobs and drop shots, but as far as all the rest go, the nuance, I don't really know. I'm just trying to hit the ball, and when all this stuff is going on, it gets a little bit crazy. I also think it's a little bit annoying how I think it's cool on paper. You do a fever shot and you send it at them, but then they can hit it back, and then you're going back and forth, and wherever the ball bounces without being hit first, then that's where it's going to land, which is like, I think that's a really great way to keep it balanced, but it's also like kind of annoying how I almost never successfully just send a fever shot, especially like when I'm playing like with the CPU. Sometimes I'll get it past them, but so often it's just like, no, they're going to hit it back every single time, and we will go into a volley every single time. And if it goes back and forth enough times, it seems like it just fizzles. So such a humongous percentage of my fever shots are just returned and volleyed and just turn into nothing. So I don't know. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Overall, I think that it probably does a lot for the game, and from what I'm seeing from other people, it's a very, very good mechanic. It's just, it's not clicking with me personally as much, and again, I don't know exactly why the gameplay isn't clicking as much. I like that so much more of it is automated because I am so not good at it, but at the same time, there's just something that's not doing it for me. I don't know. For some reason, I really got into aces, and this one I'm just not finding as fun to play. And I really do not know why. But most people seem to think that it's really great. So go watch their reviews, because I think overall the gameplay is very, very good. And if you want to talk content, I would say overall, this game probably has Aces beat. When Aces launched, it barely felt like a game. It was just so incredibly bare bones. It was like, here's the little adventure mode. Yeah, basic tournaments. You can play online, and that's like basically it. I ran out of stuff to do in a couple of sittings, and I was just kind of done. Here, there's a lot more to do outside of the adventure mode. There are actually some there's some modes here and there. You've got this this tower thing where it's basically a challenge mode where you just have these little individual mini games or these specific matchups, like, oh, like try to beat this person using this racket, or yeah, the little the mini games where you're sending the ball through the hoop and that kind of stuff, and it kind of packages it all together into this tower thing, and you have to try to get to the top. It's definitely something to do, versus Aces, where there was just nothing like that. And I was wanting something like that. With any, whether it's kart or sports or anything, I'm like, yeah, just give me like a challenge mode. Give me just like little mini games and stuff. And this game, if for the most part, it does provide that. And especially if you are going to play with friends or even just with CPUs, there's a good handful of just little individual challenge things. You've got the one that's like Mario Wonder, where you get the Wonder seeds and you hit the flower and then some silly effect happens. That's fun. Yeah, you're hitting piranha plants, or you're sending the ball through hoops, or like the Racket Factory one. So like there's a pretty okay variety. Just different ways to play that are not just basic choose your character, choose your court, choose your racket, and that's kind of it. And I do appreciate that. The thing is, like, each of these individual modes, like, none of them are very big. It is the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, good, finally, a thing like this. And then I sit down and play it for like a bit, and she's like, okay, well, that's kind of done. Like, it still really does count on you just really clicking with the gameplay and really wanting to just play again and again and again. And that's not really quite happening for me, but I do recognize that it is more. It is at least something, The game's got a menu with a bunch of different options. The challenge tower, the weird rule sets, just like little stuff. And it's definitely nice. Before we continue talking about current Mario sport game, I must remind you that this video was brought to you by Raycon. Speaking of sport, between the Super Bowl and the Winter Olympics, I got physical activity on the brain, as illustrated in this clip. And if I'm engaging and strengthening my muscles, chances are I'm using my Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classic. These have got the look and feel of Raycon's first model of everyday earbuds, with all the features you deserve, both classic and new. Up to 32 hours of battery life using the charging case, active noise cancellation, multiple sound profiles, multi-point connectivity, lots of silicone gel tips to fit any ear, and even quick charging. You can get enough juice for a 90-minute workout with just 10 minutes of charging. These things are super comfy, they never fall out, even when I'm jogging, which I do. Sometime, have done. Anyway, the Everyday Earbuds Classic are really here to help you go for gold. They also come in lots of fun colors and styles, there are lots of cool cases to choose from, and they even come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. If you want to try out a pair of the Everyday Earbuds Classic for yourself, head to buyraycon.com/Arlo, or hit the link in the description of this video, or scan this handy-dandy QR code and you can get 15% off. Thanks again to Raycon. Let us now continue talking about Mario and his current sporting endeavor. But then as far as single-player content goes, obviously, it's the adventure mode. This is what I've been waiting for, and, like, I've been waiting to see if Nintendo would do right by me as far as the adventure mode goes. Because again, like the one in Aces, it felt like a bait and switch because they were like, it's the big return of like the Camelot RPG adventure mode. And then it was just kind of like nothing. It was just like a few hours long. And the thing about this one is that in ways it is better, but then in ways it is worse. And I do kind of feel like I was tricked again. There are aspects of the overall presentation and the story that I feel are improved. Just like the concept itself, like the fact that there is a story and you've got like more characters talking to each other, this whole thing where like Daisy is sick and they have to like go and like Wario and Waluigi trick everyone to go to an island to get a magical fruit to help save her, and then there's like a weird monster that turns them into babies and they gotta like beat the monster to get turned back into adults. Like that's a thing, there are plot points, stuff happens in the story. They have to navigate this, and the cutscenes are quite good. The problem with Aces was that it had this really excellent beginning cutscene and just like nothing else lived up. For the whole rest of the experience, there was just barely anything. They were all really short. Here, you get a good handful of like okay cutscenes, like more cutscene overall than we had before, and they look really nice. The cutscenes are now 60 FPS, really nice, sharp resolution. They look really, really, really nice on the TV. They're animated well, they're colorful, they're fun. Again, stuff happens, there's explosions and action and all this stuff. And I do appreciate that. There's a progression to the story. You're moving around, you're moving through different areas, and it works. There's nice stuff about it. The problem is that, well, again, it's just so short. It's 3 or 4 hours long, I'm usually a pretty slow player, and it took me 4. So it'll probably take most people 3, but let's just say 4. Let's just call it 4 for the sake of conversation. That's a couple of sittings. That's nothing. And that wouldn't be so bad if it was consistently good the whole time. You'd be 4, but it's a good 4, right? No, it is not. It is not. I kind of thought the whole adventure would be on this island where you're trying to fight this monster and get turned back into an adult. But no, after that opening cutscene, you go back to the Mushroom Kingdom and you enter the Mario Tennis Academy, and you spend a bunch of time learning how to play tennis. And it gets real into the weeds with all the different shot types and player types and everything, which is it's not a bad thing to have the adventure mode sort of act more or less just as a tutorial. I do want to learn all these shots. It is important to know how the game functions. The problem is that the pacing is just so off. The beginning of the game it's so slow. It is really, really tedious. And I would be a lot more willing to engage with it on this level, to meet the game where it is and be learning all of this stuff, if I thought that there was going to be more to go from there. The beginning of this game is basically setting itself up to be a really big adventure. And they're we really need you to know everything because you've got a whole bunch of stuff to do after this. But no, you spend all of this time learning, and that ends up being half of the adventure. Seriously, 2 hours. And then you go to you go back to the island with the monsters and stuff, and you fly through it. You fly through it in no time. It's an hour or two. You've got a little world map, and you go through each spot. Sometimes you spend minutes. Minutes. You drop in, there's some silly little mini game thing you gotta do. Oh no, there are piranha plants and we gotta beat them. And then there's a big, and then you gotta fight piranha, and then you're done. Sometimes it's literally 10 minutes. And you just go, and you just fly through the rest of it. And it's just so all of this really tedious setup at the beginning, it doesn't feel worth it at all. There's no payoff. The stuff that you do in the rest of the adventure mode, it is okay. It is fine. There is something of a variety of stuff to do. Oh, the things are on fire, so we gotta hit the water bubbles back at it. It's always just kind of coming up with an excuse for you to have to hit stuff and at targets and use your different shot types to hit the different targets. There's just not a ton. So there's some variation there, but not an absolute ton, because most of the time it does kind of boil down to more or less the same thing. The bosses are okay. I think the bosses are pretty fun. So it's I don't know. It feels kind of underwhelming, but at the same time, what else am I looking for? I'm really trying to be honest with myself. What actually do I want though? Do I want more padding? Do I just want a longer runtime? Do I want more story, or is that just going to mean that the characters talk more and it just wastes more of my time? I don't know. I think I want it to feel a little bit more deliberate. I want it to feel better paced. I want it to feel like I'm actually in these areas. Because that's the thing is you'll go through these areas where you're running around. You're little baby Mario and you're running around, and there are characters to talk to. It's just that that itself feels like such a bigger idea than the game actually delivers. Because again, you just there's barely anything to do, and you just kind of fly through. I don't know. I want a more of a sense of place. I want the game to be a little bit more just deliberate with what it does, instead of just feeling like everything is so tacked on. It's so perfunctory. They just it just wants to get it done. And I know I already mentioned how tedious the beginning is, but I really cannot stress it enough. It's terrible. It's actually terrible. I almost wanted to give up. It's actually that bad. It's not just that they want to teach you everything. It's that they do it in this breadcrumb, tiny step at a time kind of way. You know, before you learn each shot, you got to go do a mini game to raise your stats. But like the mini games are not fun. Most of them have nothing to do with tennis whatsoever. They're not even that well designed or fun to play. You know, like it's like you think Mario Party, like all those games are fun to play. These are like the D tier Mario Party games. You know what I mean? They're just like they're not that fun. Sometimes you have to do them like multiple times. If you want to raise your stats, you have to run back and forth all over the academy. Now go do this. Now go do that. Now go do an annoying quiz. I don't want to do a quiz. It's one of those like just like 3-question quiz things. And if you get one wrong, you got to start over. So you just kind of like trial and error through it. Now run over here. Now go do that. Now go do another mini game. Now go do this. It's agonizing at times. It's just terrible. It just has you running around all over, and like even the little academy place is like annoying to traverse, seemingly just to give you something more to do. So you're not just walking upstairs, you got to go on the platform and it's moving, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't accomplish anything other than to just make me annoyed. And then like, yeah, and then, you know, you want to talk about missed potential. You have an adventure mode where you have like stats. Oh, stats? Like in an RPG where like the more I play, the stronger I get, and I can increase my individual stats like this and that and run speed and all like that's awesome. But it does not amount to anything. It does not amount to a thing. There's no real progression here. You're just doing what the game has laid out in front of you. There's no feeling that you're getting stronger. There's no like sense of reward when the stats increase. You're leveling up all the time, but I can barely even tell the difference of like what that even does. It just doesn't really accomplish anything. It just ends up being a 3-4 hour long tutorial, and you get through it and you're just kind of done, and that's it. Forever. Like it's just behind you. There's nothing else to do. There's no replay value or anything. And half of it is like not fun at all. And the rest of it is like kind of fun. So once more, I feel like I have been tricked. And here's where we come to my big issue with Mario Tennis Fever. On the one hand, I can recognize that even if it does disappoint me, you know, really short adventure mode, not a whole lot of single player content, it could be that that's just fine the way it is. This is mainly a multiplayer focused game. So it's like, should Nintendo spend a bunch of money and time creating a bunch of single player content? Maybe it's not necessary. Maybe as long as like the game modes are good and the gameplay is good and the balancing is good and the online is good and all that stuff. You know, the online is pretty good. I played some online matches and yeah, no, I mean, they're playable. So I can give it that. As long as you have all that, do they even need to do more? You know, like a hardcore Mario Tennis fan who just wants to play with friends and play online. Like they're going to be happy here. They're going to be very happy here. Should they even be catering to a single player? I don't really know. I think my frustration is that Nintendo has kind of slipped into this like comfortable, I don't want to say mediocrity, but it's something like it with their sports games. They just used to try a lot harder. Like we had, you know, it's not like it's always been this way. We have the examples of the older games back when they would have like tons and tons of features and tons of unlocks and modes or a much more substantial adventure mode for single players. Like we come from a time when that was a thing. So I want to see that here, especially because since Mario Tennis Aces, they gave us a new golf game that actually did have a much more substantial adventure mode. So I kind of thought that the Aces one was, I don't know, it was just kind of rushed out the door. But here it's just like, no, they're just like, it's that they're doing it on purpose. You know, they're not like running out of time or whatever. They like, this is clearly their vision for Mario sports games. There are a lot of people who are like, I don't even want to play the new ones. I'll just play the old ones because they have way more content to them. And I think this is all pure speculation. I don't know what Nintendo's going on in their heads or whatever, but like it feels to me like they know if they make one too good, people may just stick with that one. So instead, they need to iterate very slowly, very, very gently. There needs to be like, you know, one or two kind of new things about each new game, couple of new modes, but it can't be so good that you just want to stick with that one. It has to be just good enough that people who are big fans of the series will come back and keep buying the new ones. The frustration is that Nintendo is all about innovation. They're all about big new ideas. They're all about spending a bunch of time making sure that a game is really, really good, really fully featured, as satisfying to the player as possible. Until they don't want to. Until they're not interested in that. And that seems to be the case with their sports titles. That's not like, they don't like the Nintendo spirit, or at least that part of the Nintendo spirit is not really present in a lot of these sports titles. Their goal is to make this kind of middling, kind of better, not that much better, but kind of better thing, just better enough to keep people coming back, but not so good that you can just like get one and stop. It just like in so many ways, it feels so rote. It feels so just paint by numbers. I mean, like it's also just like, I'll completely admit, like I should be judging the game just by its own merits, but I cannot help but look at it within the greater context. You know, the Switch came out and then it got a Mario Tennis game the next year. Okay, well, then we got the Switch 2 and it got a Mario Tennis game the next year. It feels like the series that Nintendo goes to when they're like, all right, we just need something. We just need something to pad out the schedule a little bit. It's like, why are you digging into that drawer now? Like, are we already that desperate? And I know that's not fair, because there are Mario Tennis fans, people who are like really excited by this. It's just weird seeing it so early in the generation. And it's like, there are other sports games we're kind of waiting on, other sports that they haven't touched for a while or ever. And it's just, it's another tennis game. Okay. Yeah, all right. And it's another one without a whole lot of single-player content and a really, like, disappointingly short adventure mode. Okay, yeah, all right. It is different. It's good. It's refined. But it's not that different. It's not really doing anything very, like, bold and new and innovative. It's kind of just the next Mario sports game. It's infinitely safe, And maybe that is what's gotten me kind of just, about it, Is that fair? I don't know. I really don't know. It's sad to see Nintendo hold themselves back. That it feels like they are really purposefully pulling their punches here. Like, nope, don't make too much content. Don't make the adventure mode too long. Don't make any one thing too satisfying, because this is a multiplayer game, and if the multiplayer is good, then everything else, it's just, they're just bonuses. They're just perks. But anything more would be a waste of money, because it's not strictly necessary to get the game in the hands of its target audience. And I don't know. That to me seems a little bit too calculated for Nintendo. It goes against their whimsy, their desire to really do something creative and surprise their fans. In so many other categories, that's the Nintendo they want to be. But with certain series, they're much happier just kind of pumping them out on a conveyor belt. I mean, it's not like they're doing one every single year. It's been like, 7 or 8 years since we've gotten a tennis game. But between all the sports games, it really is just kind of like, all right, what's next? All right, there you go. There's another golf. All right, what's next? Yep, there's another tennis. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Don't listen to me. I didn't even play the GameCube one, so my opinion cannot be trusted. Okay, so I lost the ball for this Scoopy thing, and I think the hoop for this little basketball broke, so they're friends now. This works out all right. Wah! Wah! How can I get it? Wah! Nope. That wasn't good. Here, I can get it. I'm gonna get a good one. I'm still trying to remember the thing. Is this game a swing and a miss? That's more baseball. Shoot, hold on. Is this game a swing and a miss? Or is it strikeout? There we go. There's a little one. Wah! Oh, yeah. Wah! I'm gonna do a real, yeah. Whoa! Hey, no, come on, I had it.